Now, Gordon, you wrote and published your own book in 2009, Corporate Nazi. It is, of course, available from Amazon, anyone who's interested. I have a copy of it here. Corporate Nazi by Gordon Pye. A very interesting read, might I say. What first compelled you to put your thoughts into print?
Well, I've been sort of blogging on websites for years when I sort of realised that I were actually getting sort of quite good at writing. So I thought, well, I'll put a collection of my stuff in, but I mean, I don't want to come across like I'm some sort of university political wonk that's on sort of acid or something like that, you know, like sort of, so I put sort of where I come from in, you know, like sort of basic life history and stuff I've done, you know, been places, seen that, done that, got the t-shirt, you know, like, so,
So a lot of interesting things to put to print then, a lot of interesting stories to tell.
yeah, I suppose I could expand further, especially from haulage side. I know I've got another book planned, and I'll have one or two tales about haulage industry in it, as well as like sort of a political diary and some sort of quite long sort of bits.
Yeah.
Especially like one about Hazel Blears and the principles of corporate ethnic cleansing.
We'll get to corporate ethnic cleansing. But for those who are new to the term corporate Nazi, what would you say is the definition of corporate Nazi?
I suppose I could class myself as sort of a closet ecologist. Eco-fascists are driven by ideology. Ecologists sort of more sort of spaced out people. They're not sort of out there sort of fighting the corner, which is a pity. Really.
They're not trying to tell other people how to live their lives, basically.
No. I'm sort of informed via the Newsnight blog that the correct sort of political terminologies for what we've got now, the people in power, are basically anarcho-capitalist Trotskyites. Quote examples like George Bush being able to trace Trotsky back in his sort of DNA, his political DNA has got Trotsky in there. And that's what they're all about, it's permanent revolution. But like sort of make as much money as you can out of it, you know, like sort of, and it's all sort of gone a bit pear-shaped more recently.
There is a strong political theme running throughout your book, and of course at one point you were a member of the Labour Party. And what were your impressions of the political arena just after leaving the Labour Party?
Well, it was basically sort of bought out by sort of corporate interests. Everybody, including Liberal Democrats, were bought out by corporate interests. And there isn't a fag paper between any of them on this climate scam that they've got running, sort of claiming that it's going to eat up and everybody's going to sizzle to death, you know, like it's just not going to happen, you know, like sort of, even if we do double carbon dioxide. So everything's just based on a lie.
Would you say the climate agenda is the means to push an end? Maybe the people who are in control want more control over the population, and this is the means by which they're going to carry it out? Oh
yeah, they're going to get everybody forced to pay private taxes. I don't even know, it's this sort of energy thing. These sort of levies on bills, it's not an actual tax, government hasn't got anything to do with it, it's paid to energy company. So in effect, you're paying a private tax to a company of your choice. You can look at quite a few things in one sort of a private tax, like bus fares when you've got a monopoly provider. And
so it's a rigged market then?
Oh yeah. I mean, there's no such thing as a free market. If there were a proper free market, we wouldn't be in this mess now.
So would you say the people who purport to say that we live in a capitalist society aren't quite correct, if you're saying there is no free market?
Well, it's a corporatist society. That's what corporate Nazis are all about. It's all about sort of socialism for large multinational corporations, and capitalism for everybody else, especially people claiming benefits. You know, you can't have any basically, and you know, that sort of stuff. Everybody else
So would you say the left-right paradigm, the traditional left-right paradigm, is less significant these days?
It's redundant. It's not a left-right question anymore.
What area in that field would you say the main three political parties in the UK occupy?
Well, it just depends whether you want to define eco-fascist or left as left or right.
Mm.
It's not. It's neither.
Mm.
That's where I sort of came up with this corporate Nazi concept. To sort of classify all these sort of key players now that's sort of floating around, sort of the running things, you know, like sort of various celebrity stock market parasites, sort of controlling sort of ideology and sort of arranging all new legislation to sort of benefit corporate multinational companies, you know. And they've got all these alleged environmental groups sort of doing all the dirty work for them, and the stupid idiots out there think that environmentalists are against big business when sort of nothing could be further from the truth.
Same people. What's your opinion regarding the current state of UK politics? We have just had a Tory government voted in, a coalition with the Lib Dems, of course. How would you say that's going so far for them?
I think the main problem is there isn't any effective opposition. Labour's now so discredited on sort of everything, more or less, you know. I mean, I think there's sort of people asking serious questions about the climate scam position and this sort of alleged sort of quest for green jobs. It just sort of, it's insane. It's not going to happen.
Why do you think there's no reaction from the general population towards this type of thing?
I don't think they really sort of fully understand what's going to hit them in the next few years.
Do you think that's because their education standards are so low?
No, none of them ever watch news on telly. And even if you do watch news on telly, you usually find stuff sort of edited out more or less and put in a corner so nobody knows what's really going on.
So things are buried then?
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's also clear from your book that you feel such initiatives as Spy in the Sky toll roads, national biometric ID cards, fuel price escalators and congestion charges are counterproductive on a local, regional and a national level. Now, while all these things have largely been put on the back burner for the past couple of years due to a large-scale public rejection, do you feel these subjects will rear their ugly head at some point again in the near future?
Yeah, well, it was talked about before the 1997 election. Tories were on about privatising motorways then, even. I think they've sort of gone off it now. I don't think they could sort of even consider it. You've got all the Lib Demics, sort of, there's like one or two of them keep going on about road pricing. But I mean, you've got to look at economics of it. It cost 28 billion quid to set up before you knocked a single penny off fuel tax or made any money out of it. So it's not really sort of going to happen. Not if we allegedly haven't got any money to spend anywhere. I think they'll be desperate enough by next election for somebody to put it in the manifesto. And they'll be so desperate to save the stock market if it doesn't sort of totally implode before, which looks like sort of likely. But it'll be an excuse to sort of pad it out or whatever, like sort of PFI, sort of welfare state for the stock market parasites style. That's sort of what everything they sort of try and do sort of ends up being that. Like, for instance, now that feed-in tariff, they found out that big companies are sort of playing over fields in the middle of nowhere and stuff like that and claiming all subsidy and think that it was sort of intended for households, sort of small generations, sort of been totally sort of ruled out, you know, like sort of, there just isn't any money for them after all big guys have been in and took it all. So they are actually doing something about it, but you know, that's what usually happens when it's a new, especially up to the green sort of technology. It always ends up being a welfare state for stock market parasites.
Speaking of which, what's your opinion of PFI?
If it had been done properly, I suppose it would have been fair enough, but I mean, a 10-year-old kid could have made a better job than what half at contracts are. I mean, they might not realise it, like sort of your average sort of brain-dead MP won't realise it, but you know, that's what it's all designed to do. Everything they sort of write is sort of channelled in to sort of supporting particularly City of London. And it's all about reducing competition and sort of creating cartels and just general sort of further sort of rigging at free market.
Do you think that's because much of the money that goes towards funding PFI is borrowed money instead of using public money?
Yeah, but I mean, I asked about putting my savings into it. I just thought, well, it's going to make a lot of money. When they were on about it, I knew that. And so I thought, yeah, that'd be a good place to put some money in to sort of make money long term. And you know, only you can't do that. It's only open to, you know, like sort of institutions. So it weren't as if public people are actually funding it. It's all done through, you know, I mean, it might be publicly funded technically through a pension scheme or something like that, but it's still the welfare state for the stock market parasites. It's sort of generating them false business, which in turn produces false economic growth, which sort of increases the financial apartheid between rich and poor.
Define a stock market parasite for us.
I suppose somebody's already done it for me. I forgot his name now. That character, that Lord, whatever it is, that has already put it on record that a large proportion of what goes on in the City of London is socially sort of useless. So if you sort of cut all that out and just got back, I mean, I've got nothing against people buying stocks and shares sort of based on what dividend they might get, you know, fair enough, but I mean, they won't sort of pegging back. There wants to be a maximum they can go up and what sort of a minimum, you know, maximum they can go down really to sort of make it sort of worthwhile. But you know, there's nothing wrong with lending a company shares, especially if it's somebody who's trying to grow a new company. But to do what they're doing now is sort of criminal.
So it's based on greed?
I can't really sort of imagine why people have to sort of have so much sort of income coming in, what sort of permanently, because you know that sort of, they must be on 10 times of what they sort of need to live a decent life on.
Okay, join us in part 4,
where we will be discussing both national and global politics.